This morning I was thinking about all of the mirrors in my house. There's one over the sink in my bathroom. In our bedroom, there's another mirror beside the door. There's one over the mantle in the living room and one on the wall in the entryway. In almost every room, there are opportunities to catch a glimpse of myself. There is a long biblical tradition that describes God's laws as a mirror. The closer we look at what God wants, the more we understand Him, the more we understand our own hearts and desires. We catch a glimpse of how our own hearts distort the love and community God is calling us into. The Exodus story is filled with dramatic scenes: the burning bush, the Egyptian plagues, the parting of the sea. But God doesn't end His mighty works with deliverance. God would also form His people into an expression of His values. That work finds its most visible moment at Mount Sinai, with 2 stone tablets of laws, the 10 Commandments. The Old Testament, unfortunately, gets a reputation for its list of seemingly strange and archaic rules. But those commandments Moses received on the mountain are anything but archaic. The 10 Commandments are staggering in their timelessness. You must not have any other God but me. You must not make for yourself an idol of any kind or an image. You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Honor your father and mother. You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not testify falsely against your neighbor. You must not covet your neighbor's house. Those laws are still as relevant today as they were to those first Israelites camped around the mountain waiting for Moses' descent. It had not been long since Israel had escaped captivity in Egypt. They now found themselves a tattered mass wandering through the desert, God leading them to this mountain where He would give them these new commandments. Like any new government or nation, the declaration of their existence as a people included the ways they would live as a people. For Israel, their new national identity was not formed by their own planning or legislating. They were formed by a law descending from God Himself. When we hear the word law, we often think of restrictions. These are the limitations God is putting on His people, but that's not quite right. At one point much later in the New Testament, Jesus was asked to summarize all of the law and determine which of the rules received by Moses was the most important. Jesus responded simply, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and a second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself." The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these 2 commandments. What Jesus recognized was that these laws were not just restrictions. They were an invitation to live out what God valued: life, rest, respect, honor, worship, gratitude. This is what it meant to be God's people, a new community formed for the enjoyment of His promised land. Each of God's commandments had been carefully designed to lead Israel into that promise, into its fullest enjoyment. But there would be a problem. Israel would continually struggle to live up to the fullness of what God had called them to be. They would focus on the restrictions of the law, carefully shaping their life to avoid any infringement, and yet miss the whole point, the life and love that God was calling them to. Here's how James puts it in the New Testament. "For if you listen to the word and don't obey, it is like glancing at your face in a mirror. You see yourself, walk away, and forget what you look like. But if you look carefully into the perfect law that sets you free, and if you do what it says and don't forget what you heard, then God will bless you for doing it." The real question of God's law is not what it will keep you from doing. The real question is what it exposes in you and what it calls you into. Love God. Love your neighbor. This is His law. This is what it means to be His people. To be welcomed not just into a world of restrictions, but into a better way of living and being. His law is an invitation into a better community and a better life. Listen.